Have you ever noticed that in the fiercest storms, so things like typhoons, hurricanes, cyclones, and those kind of things where there's a whole lot of wind, it's not the trees that are the tallest or the strongest or most sturdiest that seem to survive, but it's the trees that are able to bend and with the wind and be flexible. So this simple observation of nature has a profound lesson for us all. Okay, and that is the power of flexibility. And that's what we're going to be looking at in today's video. So please stick around. Welcome guys. So in today's video, I want to talk about the power of flexibility and the strength of flexibility. Now I'm not talking about physical flexibility, like the ability to do the splits, touch your toes and that kind of thing, although that is very important as well. To have a strong, healthy body, it is good to be flexible. What I'm talking about in this video though is the flexibility of the will, the flexibility of your mind, and to be able to adapt to the ever-changing situations of life. Okay. Now, to explain this, I want to go back into the parable of these two types of trees during the storm. So for simplicity's sake, I'm going to break trees down into just two categories. So on one hand, we have the tall, rigid trees, the big, tall, rigid ones. So these are impressive trees. They stand firm and they're unyielding. Okay, not much can move these trees. On the other hand, we have the smaller, more supple and flexible trees. Now, these trees don't have the same imposing presence in the forest as these big trees, but they do possess the ability to bend and sway with the wind, which the taller, thicker, stronger trees don't have. So this being the case, when a violent storm strikes the forest, an interesting dynamic appears. So these big, tall, rigid trees with all their apparent strength actually face a critical challenge. In their inability to bend and sway with the wind and their unyielding nature, this actually starts to act as a vulnerability instead of a strength for these trees. So as the storm's fury starts to get more extreme and the winds start blowing really strong, these big trees begin to snap under the pressure. And so what was once their strength in this context actually becomes a weakness. On the other hand, we have the small flexible trees. So these trees, when they're faced with the same ferocious winds that tear down the big rigid trees, they do something different. These trees actually bend and sway with the force of the wind. They adapt to what is happening around them. Now, it's in this flexibility that allows them to survive the onslaught from the storm. And when this storm passes, they are the ones still standing, having weathered the storm, not by resisting it, but by moving with it, adapting and changing to their surroundings. Now this little parable, or this little story, offers some quite profound lessons on life and resilience. Okay, it reminds us that it's not always the strongest in like a more conventional sense that will endure, but it's the ones who are able to adapt, who can embrace change and move with the changes of the environment and the life around them, that are truly going to withstand life's storms. Remember, according to Darwin's Origins of Species, it's not the most intellectual of the species that survives. It is not the strongest that survives, but the species that survives is the one that is able best to adapt and adjust to the changing environment in which it finds itself. Okay, so I read that straight off my computer, so sorry if I wasn't making eye contact, but that quote pretty much encapsulates what we're talking about in today's video. Now that we've looked at this little story or little parable about the trees, let's now shift our attention to how us as humans can actually apply the lessons of flexibility in our own lives. So we're going to discuss about how transforming our mindset and our actions can actually help us thrive amidst life's uncertainties and the storms that life throws at us. Consider your own life for a moment. I'm sure it's filled with goals, aspirations, things that you want to do, be, have, This is what makes life beautiful, is chasing those things that we want to experience. It's kind of like a long road trip with stops and destinations all along the way. But just like on a road trip, on our journey through life, we often encounter obstacles. Now, some of them are predictable, like a rainy day or, getting fired or whatever it might be. But then others are just completely left field, unpredictable, unexpected, and there's just absolutely no way you could have prepared for them. Now, when things like these obstacles occur, this is where the virtue and the power of flexibility really becomes vital in how you respond to those obstacles and to get around them. Now, what I would like you to do is really imagine that you are on a road trip. Okay, and we can think of this road trip as the journey of your life. But on this road trip, you've put in your destination and you've got this path that you want to take. That's the path that you've decided you're going to go. But as you're going down this path, you come to realize that it's completely flooded. It is completely washed out with rain. What would you do? Okay, you've decided that this is your path, but now there's an obstacle in your way. You could just blindly push forward, but that's probably going to result in a negative outcome. You're either going to destroy your car, drown, you're not going to be able to move anywhere, and then that's really going to derail you from getting to your destination. So what is the other option? That is to find a detour, to find another way to get to your destination. And it's just this simple idea of finding an alternative path that is what flexibility is all about. It's about acknowledging the obstacle and adapting your route rather than just giving up and turning around and going home, or recklessly just forging ahead with your plan, even though life is showing you that there's an obstacle in the way, that you can't actually proceed the way you wanted to. That's the power of flexibility, is being able to find those detours whenever we come across one of these obstacles in our lives. Now, if you're thinking about adapting flexibility as one of your virtues in life, you'll be in very good company. Okay, Albert Einstein, a name synonymous with genius, once highlighted the importance of adaptability. So he suggested that the measure of intelligence is the ability to change when needed. So when new facts appear, when you learn something new, when you see something from a new perspective, your ability to take in that new information and change and adapt your outlook is what he considered a good measure of intelligence. So just remember that facing these new facts, facing these obstacles, things that appear in your life, it's not a personal attack or a sign of failure. It happens to everyone in life. Life is unpredictable. If it was predictable, it'd be pretty boring. Okay, so acknowledge the fact that this happens to everyone. So it's not a personal attack or a personal failure. What it is, it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to reassess and adapt and move forward in a more productive manner. Okay, so embracing change isn't about surrendering or giving up power. It's choosing to be smarter and more resilient based on the new situation, the new facts, the new environment that you find yourself in. This is the power of flexibility, to be able to handle anything that life throws at you. So, how do we actually cultivate this flexibility in our own lives? There's a few things we should do. The first thing to remember is that there are many paths to our destination. There are many ways to get where we want to be going. When we fixate on just one single path, only one way to get to where we want to go, we severely limit our options. Okay, so always remember that. There is more than one way to get to where you want to go. Secondly, we should also detach ourselves from the situation and analyze it objectively. Remember, when you come across an obstacle, it's not personal. Okay, it's not like life has just singled you out and said, I'm going to give this guy all the problems. We all have our problems. Okay, it's about finding the best solution in our given circumstances, whatever appears in our life. And then finally, we must be willing to change our course of action, change our approach to whatever we are doing. Remember, this isn't about admitting defeat, again, because it's not personal. You're not in a win-lose situation. It's about intelligently navigating life's challenges. So when you are given that flooded path, you actively search out the best detours to ensure that you still get to your destination. So remember, it's not personal. You haven't lost. You haven't been defeated. As long as you reassess, change your approach, you can still get to your destination. And it'll probably be better and easier once you've made these detours, instead of just trying to plow through that flooded road, which is just going to lead to disaster anyway. Okay, so just remember those 3 points. Do not fixate on one single path. There are many ways to get where you're going. 2, don't take anything personally. Okay, so whenever an obstacle shows up in your path, detach from the situation and analyze it objectively. And then lastly, be willing to change. Change your approach, change your course of action. If you need to make that detour, make that detour. Now, as you start to embrace this power of flexibility in your lives, you start to equip yourself with a tool to handle life's unpredictable situations. So just like those little flexible trees, when a storm does come blowing in, we are going to bend with those winds. We're not going to break in the face of adversity. Now, this adaptability is a strength, and it enables us not to just survive these storms of life, but to actually thrive and grow through them, to become more adaptable or anti-fragile. Okay, so just remember, this flexibility is your strength, your power to overcome the obstacles that stand in your way of getting to where you want to go. So embrace this flexibility of will. So as we conclude today's video, guys, just remember, just like those little flexible trees in the forest can't predict when a typhoon or a hurricane or a cyclone is going to come blowing in, we can never really predict when one of our own cyclones or hurricanes or storms of life are going to come blowing into ours. So we must remain flexible like those little trees. So whenever an obstacle appears, we need to try find that detour, that alternative path. Okay? We need to remember as well that it's not personal. The world doesn't hate us. Life doesn't hate us. This is just what happens with life. And we must be willing to actually make those changes when we come across these new facts, these new perspectives, and these new environments that we find ourselves in. That's the power of flexibility. And just like those trees, if you're able to adapt to whatever life is throwing at you, you're still going to be standing once the storm passes. And that's the key to all of this. So I encourage you all to reflect on how you can actually apply this principle to your own lives. So in what areas can you be more like these little trees and actually move and sway and adapt to the storms and the winds and the obstacles of your own lives? So please share your comments below in the comment section, any insights you've gained from the video or any tips or tricks that you have of your own. Remember, you never know who is going to benefit from your experiences and your advice. Also, if you found this video helpful, please give it a like, subscribe to the channel for more content like this, and share the video with anyone who you think might benefit from this message. But that's going to do it for today's video, guys. So until next time, remember, stay flexible, stay adaptable, and make your life extraordinary. Until next time,